Okay, so we've gone through a couple days of one review and with one of different types of reductions that take place, which has nothing to do with these, okay? Everything that we've done is more so over review, okay? Except for yesterday. So Monday was a review. Yesterday was new material on how reduction reactions take place, but we don't refer to these with that of reduction. So, with that of acids, okay, and as you can see, they're just similar in those other two organic families because of that carbonyl atom, okay, and in reference to that of that double bonded oxygen. Of course, that's old news. Okay. And we've applied this material last semester when we would illustrate how these acids are actually made. And it's a two-step process going through oxidation from which alcohol can we recall that? What do we think? Yes, it's a primary alcohol that goes through two stages and then results in that of an acid. Because if we oxidize a secondary alcohol, that would result in not an aldehyde and an acid, but rather what instead? That's review. If it doesn't form an aldehyde, maybe it forms something very similar to that, a ketone. That's right. And what about tertiary alcohols when they oxidize? Can't or they won't? Same thing. Yeah, they can do it. There's no hydrogen to take off of there because there's a methyl group attached instead. Okay. Probably one of the things that we had discussed last semester, okay, this is what results in why you possibly buy different types of lotions or a shampoo, for instance, because of what these esters actually do. Give off different types of fragrances that we would determine that you would say smells good then. And then this acid and anhydride, we briefly read that yesterday. That's what's actually happening in form of cellular respiration, where that hydrogen gets taken off or reduced in ring structures. Probably nice going home after practice yesterday and not having to stick around for a game, but I'm sure it's going to get busy one of these weeks where I think we probably all dread those where there's 4 activities. Get to go home after practice today and do our homework if we have any. We don't have any in here. Well, maybe not this class, but the next one we do. Whether you determine whether you consider that as homework, that's entirely up to yourselves. How do we think that's going so far? The only reason we ask that is because, 60% of you are in that class, right? No, all of you are. That's right. I'm thinking the other 2 are in here. Not too bad. Okay, there's certain things that we can try to teach you with that of, let's say, digestion of proteins, where we're trying to hopefully illustrate so you understand it. And then that information is yours. Anatomy, on the other hand, it's just memorization, figuring out a way to remember that. drill and drill and drill and re-drill, or whatever. What might work for one person might not work for the next. So that's why we really don't take any time other than saying you do whatever it is that you think you need to do to be successful. Okay, but we'll maybe get the skulls out today and just go over a few things. That's next hour. So I don't know why I'm talking about that now, I guess. Maybe because that class is better than this one. Maybe, I don't know. Now this is maybe a little more complex when we're talking about return back to acids. That is in reference to esters, okay? So those two are closely related, just like ketones and aldehydes are closely related. But that is something that we won't get into until next week, okay? We're just trying to set the stage for the different types of reactions that we'll be going over. Whether we get to them next week, which I'm not quite sure yet. Okay, see how the rest of this week unfolds. Okay, so let's see here. That does it for that section. We just want to get through to naming these, and then that will be it for today. I got a couple things up on the board that we can go through, and then that will be it. Now again, why we go through these is it helps me explain this material to yourself. So hopefully the next time you see this, that information's there. Just have to like open it up a file just like on your computer, and then there it is. Doesn't look too bad outside. Let's tell another staff member, let's start a rumor. We're going home early. No? And it's not going to happen. Trust me. Now, we refer to this as just the simplest way of making benzoic acid. If you remember from last semester, it doesn't matter how many carbons you actually have on there. Once that toluene or even secondary butyl toluene, or excuse me, secondary butyl benzene, any one of those, it doesn't matter how many carbons are on there, each one of them is going to be broken until you form that benzoic acid. So naming these is probably old news as well. You use the alkane derivative. In other words, like propane gets converted to propanoic acid, or butane to butanoic acid. Okay. Now, some have, as you can see, common names. Let's see here. What is it? A one-carbon aldehyde is, you could say methanol, but usually it's called formaldehyde. Just like 2-propanone, you wouldn't call it that. You'd rather call it probably acetone. And in this case, the simplest acid Okay? Scientifically, you'd say methanoic acid, but it's actually probably more commonly known as formic acid. But we don't really need to know that at this point. For next time you see this next year, maybe that may possibly be utilized. Do you think you would even remember something that was verbally said in here? Maybe. I think maybe some terms like formic acid or formaldehyde, maybe something like that would stick out in your mind. Just like how many of you maybe remember something from your freshman year. I think you probably do. You just don't realize that. Okay, so that is it for what we have for writing down materials. So working on naming some of these, okay? Just got a couple examples up here. And as you can tell, are those both acids? Yes or no? Just by simply looking at them.
Yes.
Yes, those are both acids. Now write these down. Don't write these down. That's entirely up to yourselves. But again, I'm just a believer. When you write these physically with your hand, there's a better chance of putting that information in a storage place where you can then recall it. Which, if you have an allocated amount of storage on your computer, which you do you just store everything in one folder, or do you maybe say something like my files, and then in that file there's English class, government class, or does government class have its own file? A&P class has its own file. Because when you put them in like my files, that would be kind of like your drawer in a file cabinet where you open up, then just open up which class, and that information's there. Because trust me, there's nothing worse than saving something and then can't remember where you put it. We've probably all been there too. Especially the older you get. Just ask your parents. I shouldn't pick on them like that. Well, I'm not picking on them. I'm just using them as an example. So the top one might be a little tricky. Why might that be, do you think? Maybe give you a few more seconds to get that wrote down. Because typically, what do you always want to find first? Yeah, the parent chain. So on first examination, I think I got 7 up here, right? 2, 4, 6, 7. But what happens if we go this way? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's fine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, if you were to go from the bottom up and over, is that something that you think you could do? The answer is no, but I want you to know why that would be. Yeah, because the organic family is actually on the end here, or the first carbon. If you go up and over like this, we really don't know how to name that then, because every time you look at these, one of the first things you're going to want to do is establish, okay, what organic family are we dealing with? Is it a ketone? Is it an aldehyde? Is it an acid? Is it an alkane, an alkene? Okay. So we've established that because of this COOH that we know that this is an acid. And our parent chain is how many carbons? 7. So one of the things we can do is right away is say, what's the prefix for 7? Okay, without going any further, okay, Because if we put an E on there, we're just saying it's a regular alkane, which it's not, because one of the things we just wrote up on the overhead, you drop the E and put what on there? Oh, I see. Oh, I see. Do you see? Oh, I see. Come on, that was funny. No. Some people just are afraid to. Are we afraid to laugh at that? Or maybe it just wasn't that funny. Okay. All right. So, yeah. Oh, I see. Okay. Okay. So, if we didn't change anything, well, then that's what we'd have right now. Heptanoic acid. So, we've got our parent chain named, but there's something branching off of that parent chain, and it's a what derivative? It's a butyl derivative, but which one? T. R? Oh, you're just throwing out consonants, it sounds like. Oh, second. Oh, okay. Yeah. See, I can say it's early too. Yeah. All right. So. I drink it. It's about like mud. You don't want this stuff. It's empty. Yeah, I did. And it's not that strong. Okay, so secondary butyl heptanoic acid. Okay. Oh, yes. See, yeah. 3, right? I was just seeing if anybody was paying attention. And I guess if you want to put that dash in there, I think it's probably not necessary, but 3S butyl heptanoic acid. Okay. See, we were paying attention. Yeah. That's one of the things you always do that. Maybe is just a way of maybe not taking in an innocent way of not taking responsibility. Yeah, I made a mistake, but I just like to pass the buck and say, I was just seeing if you were paying attention. Just like maybe one of the things you could do next year if you're in class and it feels like you're nodding off like this and you do fall asleep, and who can we pick on in here? Okay, so, well, if we don't say anything right away, well then, so Amanda's nodding off in class, and the professor sees that and says, you need to wake up. Well then what you do is open up your eyes and say, Amen. Just say you were praying for something. I don't know. That might work. You might not. Yeah, I don't know. It might not. Okay. I'm not speaking from experience. I'm just trying to pass off, hopefully, some useful information. Okay, so what do we see here? What type of organic family? Yes, it's still an acid, but how would we want to name that? Okay, so right away we can say this, just like we can say heptanoic acid, we can say benzoic acid. Okay? Yes, when you do that, you are automatically saying this is the first carbon. So you can use a number or you can use a letter, whichever one you choose. Because you're right when you said that, if this is number 1, this halogen derivative or chloral group is either on a number orientation or a letter orientation. The simplest would probably be the number. You don't have to remember that far back, but Well, you got these choices. There's your letter designations, ortho, meta, or para, or how many carbons away is that chloral group. It's 2 away, so therefore you could say 3-chlorobenzoic acid, or if you don't want to do that, okay, remember this is the ortho position, this would be the para position, so therefore there's your meta position, so 3 or M? 3M? That's up in Brookings. Yeah. Well, it is 3M. Yeah. Okay. So was it the 3 or the M? Okay. So you can do meta chlorobenzoic acid. All right. So maybe one of the things I could possibly do really quick is just give us a little bit of insight on what we'll be looking at on or assigned on Friday. Ooh, I don't have that in this binder yet. Okay. Well, until then, we will continue working in this chapter tomorrow, and maybe I do need to start the reactions. I'll have to look at that time. We'll catch up to you next time.